You know what it's like, a new game drops and you're eager and excited to get started. But sometimes afterwards, Captain Hindsight flies along and looks at you in the rearview mirror and says, "Hey, I bet you wish you knew these things before you started." I'm Forrester, and in this video you'll get to find out what some of those things were for me so that you can benefit from them yourself. Because you might be just starting, this video aims to be largely spoiler free. So here are 5 Starfield tips I wish I knew before I started playing. I know, short snappy title, right? There are timestamps in the video description in case you're looking for something in particular, and in the spirit of disclosure, whilst this video isn't sponsored, the game key was provided by Bethesda via Keymailer, so read into that what you will. So first up is character creation. To begin with is the cosmetic stuff, choosing your hairstyle and what have you. That's something you can change later in the game, so we'll not get into that here. But your character's story is worth paying attention to, partly for the early game skills, although you'll soon level up and that part will be less important. Yet the story you choose does unlock some dialogue options which can be more meaningful to players with a roleplay mindset. Personally, I prefer to pick something that has the persuasion skill early on, since it's useful in a lot of conversations and it's helpful to get a head start on unlocking the next skills. But the key thing here that you wish you might knew is to really consider the traits. For my first playthrough, reading through each of the traits, everything just sounded like it had a big downside as much as an upside, and so I left all of the traits blank. That was a big mistake, especially because most of the downsides can be countered after some playtime in-game. There are some traits that are more useful than others, but generally even negative sounding ones aren't too bad. I'd recommend picking one faction trait from the Freestar Collective Settler, Neon Street Rat or United Colonies Native. If you're not sure what each of these means, and without getting into spoilers, basically the United Colonies are kinda like the official government / military type faction. They're big, organised and powerful. Think traditional power-hungry sort of thing. The Freestar Collective are a bit like space cowboys, but they care about freedom and liberty, which is kind of opposed to the whole oppressive nature of the United Colonies. Think a bit poorer, rough and ready, but friendly enough. The Neon Street Rat isn't quite a faction trait like the other two, but it does give some unique dialogue and rewards for a city you visit as you get into the game. As the name would suggest, think shady underworld type stuff. You don't want to sell the death sticks, that kind of place. There are also 3 religious traits for Raised Enlightened, Raised Universal, or Serpent's Embrace. The first 2 are largely worthless other than for role players, but the Serpent's Embrace might be useful if you're a fan of constantly jumping around. Some just make sense, like Extrovert, as you'll spend the vast majority of your game with a companion. So long story short, it's worth picking up the traits, even if that means you have a mortgage or send cash back to mum and dad. Very few of the decisions you make here carry a permanent disadvantage, and most will create some interesting gameplay for you at some point or another. The second tip is really simple and straightforward, and that's to sell ammo for weapons you don't use. You'll probably get a good feel very early on in the game for the type of weapon that you're enjoying most, and certainly in the early levels as you skill up, there's benefit in focusing on a small number of weapon types. So once you know what that looks like for you, just sell off ammo of other types. Since ammo doesn't weigh anything, you can pick up everything and then just dump the extra for a decent chunk of credits. Not bad. The third tip is a bit gimmicky. It's clearly not intended, but equally you don't have to use it if you don't want to. And that's to head down to the basement of the Constellation Lodge, which is somewhere you unlock very early in the storyline. In the basement, you'll find a locked armor cabinet with a shiny looking piece of equipment inside. Sadly, the lock is there to encourage you to come back later when you have better skills. But alternatively, you could use your human skills to try and grab the armor without unlocking the cabinet. With some clever camera trickery, you can try to peer through a gap of the door in the cabinet until you see a hole in the glass, and then simply look at the mannequin and grab it without opening the cabinet. I know, a bit glitchy, but if you're looking for a step up in the early game, maybe an option for you. The fourth tip is something quite simple, and that's to give your companions good equipment to use. In early playthroughs, it's easy to hoard all the best stuff for yourself and then want to sell the rest to make a quick buck. But actually, your companions can be really powerful combat allies, not least because they don't have the same requirements as you for pesky inconveniences like ammunition. Oh, and you probably knew that if you rest in your bed you get a nice 10% XP boost buff. Well, if you're super friendly with your companion and they also rest up, that becomes a 15% XP buff. Good to know. And the final suggestion for those who want a head start is to keep an eye out for the Mantis Questline. This is the questline that gives you an incredible armor set, especially relatively early on in the game, as well as another ship, which is fairly powerful too. To grab the questline, you're looking to loot a datapad from a mob called a Spacer. You'll find them all over the place really. Then read the datapad and simply follow the quest in your mission tracker called Mantis. It's a pretty cool quest anyway, but the rewards really help in giving an early character a step up. But what are your top tips, ideally spoiler free, for Starfield? I look forward to reading in the video comments. If you found this video useful, you might press that like button to guide me as to what things to make more of in the future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel and would like to see more such videos in future, clicking that will give YouTube the nudge to show you more. Otherwise, thank you for watching.